which is going to lead us to our topic of the week. We do have a good, I think, a good topic of the week, and that is in Vigil's Watch, which is a supplement for Scarred Lands. Now, this was a product that was done just like Yugman's Guide to Gelspat. In fact, it was done in opposite months. So, in like 1 month you would get Yugman's, the next month you would get Vigil's Watch. So is done in that manner. Sorry, I was trying to find my place again in the show notes. Um, it was released throughout 2020, and we just last week got notification that the combined PDF was released. You sent me a copy of it, and then all of a sudden I got an email from Onyx Path saying, "Hey, you bought it. Here's the combined copy. Go download it on Drive Through RPG." I was like, "Oh, well, okay, cool." So Nolan and I thought it'd be fun to take a look at this product. Now we've already covered some of Vigil's Watch, so this isn't going to be like a really hardcore deep dive into it. It's just going to be us kind of talking about individual chapters, what we like, what we don't like, and just give you a quick overview. The other thing about Vigil's Watch that you have to keep in mind is that this is a source book mostly for DMs because it has adventures in every chapter. This isn't something you want your players reading through because if they read through the adventure, it just kind of spoils it. So that being said, let's kick off with chapter one. Let me bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
I like the Toe Islands. What are your thoughts on the Toe Islands?
I think we've gotten used to, teeth mountains and blood pools and pits and stuff like that. So why not have?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, there's some skepticism around the fact that the Toe Islands are actually the toes of the vanquished Titan Doom. Which this is one of the things I love about Scarred Lands. Like Fangsfall Mountain are the teeth of a Titans who was punched and his teeth fell out. This is like I said, this is one of the things that I love about Scarred. The Scarred Lands just incorporates the Divine War into everything.
Yeah, myth
And
and legend become one.
yeah, exactly. So the Toe Islands are located in the northeast Blood Sea, which the Blood Sea is blood because it's the blood that is continuously pumping from the heart of Kadum, who is at the bottom of the Blood Sea. um, what I liked about the Toe Islands is I really, and maybe it's because I love Pirates of the Caribbean, I got a total Pirates of the Caribbean feel. Like if you wanted to create a Jack Sparrow type character and play in the Toe Islands, by God, you're going to do it because you're going to have fun in this area because it's pirates, pirates, pirates everywhere.
Yep, absolutely. And I did a very good job of navigating coast. It talks about some of the boat stuff, and the big thing, like you mentioned too, the blood in the sea, dealing with we're not talking dehydration if you drink the water. You talk about blood fever. So uh, it of course it's one of those things of not just Pirates of the Caribbean, but Pirates of the Caribbean, death metal music. But he's just jacked out of their mind because they're insane.
That's exactly it. And I was looking through it and just kind of checking out the Toe Islands. And I know we've talked about this before, but there's some of these like there's one in particular that is like it is covered. Oh, Siri. So Siri is the active volcano island, and I thought it was neat as I was looking through this, and they talk about the armor that you can forge from the stones of this island, and it gives you fire resistance in your armor. So I was thinking about it, I was like, that could be a really cool quest where someone, the party has to do something where they need fire resistance in their armor. Here's a really neat way for you to say, okay, cool. You've heard legend of this island and it's in deep in the Blood Sea, and you've heard legend that if you can collect enough of the rocks you can actually infuse your armor with fire resistance, and you can set off on a whole quest just to collect rocks. And then like they talk about, there's a tribe of fire giants that's there, and now one of the big things that you have to do is you have to fight a fire giant to actually collect enough of the rocks, because he's standing guard on the beach as you come ashore, things like that. I was really excited about that. I thought that was kind of a neat.
I think they should add more stuff with crafting, enhancing gear, uh, just for those kind of quests. And I think maybe that's just your MMOs of go grab 15 ore, grab some of this, grab the rare stuff, and we craft our armor and ignits from Ragnarok to craft the legendary mace or that kind of stuff. And like you said, because of adventuring hooks,
Yeah.
you kill this thing or whatever, and in your lair you find this unworked metal, and you can't ting it, dent it, or anything like that. with any weapon or item you have here, you need to go find a master dwarf, craft something. It's the next hook in the adventure. You've got some dragon's blood, or yeah, we always talk about that. Like, well, there's dead dragons. Can I skin them? Can I get some dragon hide armor? I don't know how you get it, but that's
He was good to me.
you killed it. You earned some shit. Go nuts.
That's right. Yes, I thought that was really neat, and that was the first thing I thought of. Was like I could see, especially with how I know how you play, and it's like, oh, I have an opportunity, and I do think it comes from that MMO background. It's like, hey, Nolan, you have an opportunity to make your armor fire resistant. You know that you're going to be questing to overcome a red dragon, a venerable red dragon. You know you need fire resistance. Here's a side quest to get you and your whole party this opportunity to have fire resistance added to their armor. And you talked about a master dwarf, so maybe the original quest was you were sent out to find this master dwarf to try to figure out if you could infuse your armor, and then he, through ancient or whatever techniques, knows of this special ritual that he can do, but he has to have this rock to do it, and he can infuse your armor, and he needs X amount. Yeah, so there's tons and tons of opportunity just off of that one little island that I thought, wow, this could be really cool. Other islands, they talk about, like, again, pirates everywhere. I really liked, what's her name, Empress Cariosa Nefantera. um, I thought, she's like the leader of, what is it, the Empires of the Sea, this whole freaking pirate regime that is pretty cool. And they talk about where, like, what is it? They take new recruits and drop them off in this part of the island. And they have to work the 15 miles through all sorts of hell just to get back. And if you make it, you get to join the crew. If you don't make it, well, you're probably dead.
Yep, never to be seen from again.
Yep. And then, of course, there is an adventure. Each chapter has an adventure. We're not going to talk about the adventures. I will say that I love the way Onyx Path and how Travis leads things with his, because he is the line director for Onyx Path. I like the adventures that they do. We've had a lot of fun playing through, like, Vengeance of the Shun. We're playing through Spirogos again now with a new group. So we know that we like the way they lay out their. So good stuff there. Chapter 2, they talk about the Mansk. Mansk. Ugh, I always struggle with this one. I'll let you ramble about this one first.
Yeah, so the idea behind Mansk is basically kind of a place that wasn't supposed to succeed has now kind of become a civilization. Um, they it's what 1,000 people, which I don't know the biggest places out there, but I don't think it was ever supposed to be there. And so it's a group of people kind of coming together. It's single stories. They don't. It wasn't designed to be a city. So trade hub, lots of different people coming through. Very humble, I guess, beginning because like it's called the Mud Road End, and so to see this 30,000 place have this place that not supposed to be there, fantastic. Mostly humans, and now all of a sudden it is rapidly growing with a collection of basically people seeking prosperity or safety because it is a trader spot. Wheat farms, wolf breeders, livestock, and new mines that bring raw copper into the city. So again, forge trading opportunities to come here for just about any reason, um, and also along the lines of it gives us an opportunity to put a value on pelts, beasts that you find, which I thought was really cool. Again, you're a hunter, you're an outdoorsman, you're a survivalist. Do something with it, right? Like, I don't think there's any person that wouldn't say, well, I'm a trapper by nature, or this is my thing, and it never comes up again. Now all of a sudden you've got a reason or whatever. Just an example, they say elk value per hide is 1 gold. Then all of a sudden your hunter has a reason to be a hunter and work into your game. Well, listen, I've got, done a good job, or this is a really rare, we killed a dire wolf. I know I can get 4 gold for this at the, Black Stag Cannery in Mansk. We got to go there, right? Excuse to be traveling in the area, and it also gives the area life.
Yeah, they talk, like, you talk about the area, giving the area life. Well, they even give you, like, threats. Like, here's some of the threats that you're gonna encounter in the plains around Mansk, and some of the creatures you're going to deal with. And that's the other thing that this book does, is they bring in some new creatures to add to your Scarred Lands campaign. So really neat. Yeah, I like it. I like you said, I like the idea of saying, okay, we're gonna go. I have to go sell this wolf hide here because this is where I'm gonna get the most money. I have to be able to do this here. And guess what? Here's some shit we're gonna encounter along the way.
Right. And again, because it is kind of open the way it is, I think we see a lot more unredeemed as far as
Sure.
orcs, the Manticora in the area who we've kind of just rejected the new way of life where they're holding on to the old ways, and it doesn't seem to be anything other than territory. It's not a old deep hatred. It's just you can work that into we're just you're destroying our way of life, and whether that's true or not, kind of is what it is. But I I like that. I like the some ideas of cults that they're a part of, and again with the adventures that they give you here, it's not a whole written out adventure. It's little plot hooks to let you write your own story. They don't tell you how it's going to go down. They just give you here's the opportunity, do with it.
Yep. You mentioned the Manacora, which is going to jump us right to chapter 3, which is Leonin. And Leonin, I thought was really neat because this is like I love the artwork here. So think ancient Greece, ancient Rome, like with the big, huge column buildings like the Parthenon and stuff, uh, completely surrounded by these lion folk people. These people who look like lions, but they're human mixed with lion kind of thing. These are the Manticora, and these are the civilized Manticora. These are the redeemed ones, the ones who have forsaken the unredeemed aspect of it and have moved into a very, very really neat city. And I love the map of it because the map doesn't show like this is not a very regimental city. You can see how the city has grown, and like yeah, we had major roads, but like ancient Rome was, if you look at like you look at Rome, a map of Rome, and see how the city grew up around, it's interesting because it's not straight lines, it's not on grids, it's different. You see that discombobulation, if you will. One of the things that I loved about Leonin was the library. The library was awesome because it's not just a library. This is like you come in here, yes, we have books, we have these really neat things. Now, their history is fairly new, and I like to talk like they talk about the Lorebard College, the College of Lorebards, being like right behind the library, and like the bards want to create an underground passage so they can go between the library and the college. They haven't convinced the Pride Mother to do that yet, but they're working on it. Um, and I thought it was neat that they have these festivals where they collect history that's supposed to be one day, but it turns out to be a week, and then it's all stored in this library. So the library does have books. It has artifacts. It has creatures. There's like a whole section, and they talk about like here's some creatures that are actually stored in the library. So it's not just it's a library, it's a zoo, it's a plant nursery because they have these different plants there that, and they even talk about how some of the plants are so poisonous that they've created ventilation to keep the poison from hurting people. And again, you talk about those plot hooks, and it's like, okay, so the event you're in the library, and it could be whatever reason you've come to Leonin but you have to researching something in the library. Well, ventilation system just went out. You have 1d10 turns to figure out how to get it running again. Otherwise, you're going to start being affected by poison. So there's neat, and these are plot hooks, little adventure hooks, little side adventure hooks that they throw in here that I thought were really cool. And I think the library in Leonin, which I felt like was like one of the biggest things that they talked about here, was really really cool. And the other thing you keep in mind about Leonin is it is a city that grew up the settlement, right? So you do have all these outdoor stalls of these people. The Manticore were very nomadic. So you do have stalls where people come in and come out all the time. Yes, there are some established shops, but for the most part, you have a lot of nomadic shop owners, if you will, who come in, set up for a couple days, and then leave, and then come back like a month later. So I thought that was really neat. I I really like Leonin. I thought this is a city that, much like Waterdeep, you could probably spend a whole campaign in.
I think there's an opportunity there, and I also think as far as reasons to go there, you talked about the Bard College, keeping the tradition alive of spoken. This is a hook. You've got a bard in the party. You need him to get to an area or whatever. The festival happens to be going on. You're not going to get a better opportunity to pick up a story than this moment. it's another hook to bring you in.
Yep, absolutely. And the whole book is done this way. And that's one of the things I love. It's like, yep, here's the Iron Court, which is the next chapter. Here's a quick, quick down and dirty, if you will, explanation of what the Iron Court is. And as you're reading through that, like you talked about, you have a bard in the party. He needs to go and check out the Lore Bard College because or the festival because of this reason. Um, that is one of the things that I really liked about this book. That throughout every chapter, you get those things. I didn't get a chance to read the Iron Court chapter. Did you look through this one?
A little bit, and what I felt like we got with this whole story was it gives us a glimpse into the races we're not familiar with. The Iron Court is very much the Iron Red, talking about their culture, and this one really delved in knowing what it means to be Iron Brand. Talks about the complaining about your cities being just basically a lockdown place, right? That's why would you stay there when you can roam and travel and gave kind of a horse vibe, I guess. I don't know if that would be in their nature to have that freedom to move around. You know, you imagine keeping a horse in a stall, and that's how they view cities. Um, so having that idea that they can travel and move and be on the plains, move where they need. I don't know that I can play a horse. I I just there's certain things about it that uh, just probably not for me. But
Sure.
um, I don't know. It was interesting. It wasn't something that I got super excited about either. But looking at it, it's the nomadic creatures I really enjoyed. Knowing the dangers that they feel that they have is very cool. Just from a standpoint, this Sutak band they call it, fire, curse of the angry earth, uh, and then things that they're afraid of from above because of canyons and that kind of stuff. So gave a little bit into it. Not necessarily my most exciting one, but again a reason to go and if you're going to be there. And I think that's the big thing there. Is, you know, we can easily overlook a lot of the races and they could never come up in Scarred Land. Um,
Right.
and now you've got a reason to be there. And again, from the mega campaign we did when we dealt with the orc and their kind of culture clash and stuff like that really stood out to me. You are dealing with fairly fresh races to this world, still trying to figure out where they fit in. Sometimes you don't. So
Yeah.
you live on the move. I really like this
I
one.
do too.
Yeah. Horse with hands just throws me off though.
I mean, we had lion in the hands in the last chapter, so
Yeah, I guess
um,
I'm just more used to cat people, I guess. That's just a more
yeah,
common
because
thing.
yeah, it does happen, and we do have that in. So I did. Chapter 5 is the festering, and this does not seem like a place you're going to want to go to unless you absolutely, especially the fact that it's what is it wedged between the sweltering plains and the Ukrainian desert. Now we played in the Ukrainian desert in the Vengeance of the Shun campaign, and it was a terrible place. I mean, sandstorms and sandworms and fields upon fields of undead. Of course, that was because of Mahiel, but still. Um, so this isn't like the best place to be. This is a place that was completely scarred by spells of mass destruction, as they call it. And so you have a lot of like it's shit, man. It's like this is you better be going here for a reason. Like this is for whatever reason the big bad evil guy has decided that he or she is going to make their home in the festering fields, and you have to go through that crap to get to them. And there's like it talks about the encounter from 14 through 17 on a roll of d20. I'm sorry, from 14 to 20 on a roll of d20. It's a terrain encounter. It's not like a monster attacking you. It's the very ground itself, which is common in Scarred Lands. In Scarred Lands, we have seen this more and more where the terrain itself is what's hindering you. Like you walk through this field and suddenly your boots are rusting off your feet. Things like that happen within Skarn. So I liked it. A lot of undead in this area.
I was gonna say the interesting thing about it was is where we've got background history, lore, people, and all the other books. Here's the monsters you're gonna find. And
Right.
I mean that is just kind of it. It's a couple pages of just referencing the creature collection, like you said, the encounters depending on where you're at, the undead, and the idea behind this place is this is what's left of a major fight. And after it was done, there's so much negative, horrible energy in the area that, yeah, that got up and kept fighting.
Yeah, and if you think about it in the real world aspect, it's like, okay, you're a D&D party, or your group, your friends, whatever, decide they're going to go into Chernobyl. And the stuff that we're going to see in Chernobyl, like the animals and stuff that have been affected by radiation for all these years, are going to be different than what you encounter elsewhere. Maybe the flies are a little bit bigger, or the dogs are a little bit bigger, or have sharper teeth, or something like that. I don't know, but that's one way that I kind of thought about the festering fields in a real world aspect. You mentioned the creature collection, and this is something you have to keep in mind with these books: is that some of these books very much require you to have other Scarred Lands books. Now, I always draw a blank on SRD. Remember which book that is, Nolan? I don't either. Um, Travis, if you're listening, can you please tell me what SRD is? I don't think it's the Scarred Lands Player's Guide, because that's usually SPL. Um, so yeah, the Creature Collection was one book that they did, which is like a monster manual. They reference a lot of the Creature Collection in this book, and then SRD, which I don't know what that is. So there is there's a lot of monsters in this section. They do go into some other encounters that you can have, like in hill encounters. I mean, you have giant zombies, you have undead, you have night touch, willow tree warriors, corpse piles, a whole pile of corpse attacking you. You have undead, swarm of bats, Shardoon slain, hunters, hounds, burned ones. I mean, this is nothing good. This is nothing that you want to encounter. This is shit that's going to kill you. So don't go to the festering fields unless you have to.
Well, and I think one of the things that I took away from there was a specific monster, Yaga Mordi, and seeing this hag rolling through it. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, okay. And then I turned the page, and she has an entire page of this. And I'm like, oh, large fish, Titan spawn, real evil, legendary stuff. Okay, so a CR 14 hag that roams this area. And it's because you know the rumors are she was once a necromancer in this area, and just roams here. So this could be the big bad. Very a Mahiel style that decides to either walk out or walks on the edge, or it's pushing the negative zone towards a city. Um, yeah, I really liked it. I really like when you just have a class feature of horrific appearance. Any humanoid that starts his turn within 30 feet of Yagamorta can see her true form. Let's make a wisdom saving. Failed save, the creature is frightened for 1 minute. Um, just looking at her terrifies you.
Right.
Death Shroud. When Yagamorta hits with any weapon, the weapon deals an additional 2d8 necrotic damage. The start of each of her turn, Yagamorta deals 9 necrotic damage to any creature grappling her. So I mean, it's just one of those things of like this thing down. Some of its actions are death glare, life drain, change shape, has legendary act, summon undead as part of their legendary. Just has a bit. I mean, it's a it's a very deadly engage.
Yes, it is. It's definitely one that, like you said, it's going to be your big bad at the end. This isn't something you're like, oh, I'm just going to throw this guy at him today. It's fine. So, not like me throwing beholders at you.
Yeah, just
Exactly. So the last chapter in the book deals with the city of Loki, um, which we've visited during Vengeance of the Shun, because it's the library. It is really neat. I liked that section. I love the fact that you have to go through, if I remember correctly, the Ukrainian desert to get to Lokiel, and even the artwork shows you like this city up on a mountaintop, or mountainside, I should say, and all the ruins around it, because it was very much affected by the Divine War. But this library still exists, and it's not like the biggest oh or employment center, if you will, in Low Kill, because there's a lot of like miners, crafters, and stuff like that, which this section does break down. So it talks about the library. It talks about like the fact that there's other things that happen. Now, if you remember, if I remember correctly, during Vengeance of the Shunned, you guys broke some rules and were able to drop down into the basement of the library. Isn't that correct? Do you remember that?
yeah. I think a part of it was Lokiel kind of ended up being a haven for collecting things that shouldn't get out. And
Right.
so in the deeper, darker areas of it is kind of where they hide stuff in the, and we ended up running into some things underneath the city itself.
Yeah, I think Mahiel has even set up a gateway that gave her like access to a private sanctum that you guys ended up going into, and your Doxy did that got you guys almost.
I think there was a dragon we fought.
It was something like that. Yeah, I remember it being a really neat encounter. So, and that's why when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, I know that name."
Yeah,
It does talk about the mines and stuff that are in Lokiel and some of the crap that you can experience down there. Um, Pretty neat. There's also some magical items, like there's a wondrous item, the Tome of Titans, that was detailed in this chapter. I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about that, but there's some new stuff that you can like. Oh, Orrery of the Ancients was a wondrous item that you can find. Um, and then, like I said, they go into the mines and some of the creatures that you can encounter in the mines. Uh, you know,
well, I thought that a lot of this here too is it was kind of a gateway into uh, well, seeing the clockwork as being some of the guardians, um, and that kind of stuff there leads to a different kind of was a thing that opened the.
right. So that's the entire book. It was 6 chapters long. Um, I'm curious, what are your thoughts overall on this book?
It is along those lines of very much kind of a DM thing, but also if you have a player that wants to play one of the redeemed races, I think these would be kind of your go-to. You get a little bit of it in the normal book, but this here really, if I'm playing Ironbread now, or I have a player playing that, I give them this here. This is the Iron Court. This is the way that we believe now. This is that, this is what you're from, just so you have a general. And we get kind of spoiled with that as most games go because we have a general idea of what an elf is or what a dwarf is or a gnome or a human. Like we can understand that kind of stuff. Um, different than their sisters, and they've been through some stuff, and they are very much at different levels. You know, in their society. The Iron Court kind of very much reminded me of nomadic Native Americans. Just kind of that idea of the pride and not settling in a place. The orcs remind me very much of Mongolian horse raiders. And so those are not necessarily things that I would ever associate with work. And then once you see it, it's really hard to be, wouldn't they? You know, I can dig it. I can support it. Same thing with like the Manacora. If you're going to sit there and say, oh, Manacora, like, oh, you're a cat person who's bred for war and destruction. Like, yeah, no, I rock a toga and scholar. Really, wait, what? So it opened up some eyes. I liked it a lot. I like having it all as kind of one book, be able to kind of see it. But it very much is different sections that you can different people depending on what you know.
Right. In when they originally released it, it was broken down in that exact way where you chapter. And I did think that was one of my thoughts too, was like this is an opportunity for you to say, hey, here's something, you know, and knowing probably full well that they're going to at least glance over the adventure, or it's under a supervised situation where you're like, hey, read this while you're here, don't go past page X. That was something that you could do well. um my opinion of this book is really high. Again, I think Onyx Path does a great job of the products that they put out. Even if it's never going to be printed, I think they still take great care in the stuff that they produce. And one of the things that I love about these types of books is these are great supplemental books that I'm not spending a ton of money for, that are still enhancing and enriching our games. And it allows us to, as a DM, have these new things that I can include in the game, as well as new adventures, plot hooks, things like that that I may have not have thought of before. They've done other books like this, like we talked about Yugman's Guide to Gelspad. We do have the Blood Sea book that came out last year or year before. So they have some really, really neat books. I love the fact that they're not always hardback. Like in this case, it's a PDF. Um, I love the fact that they're inexpensive. They're not going to break my bank. I'm not spending $50 every time I buy these books. And for me, these books are the kind of stuff that I'm going to buy because, like I said, they do enrich and enhance our game and give me options as a DM to provide to players who are playing in our game.
Yeah, and I like the again for me the big takeaway out of the whole thing was putting a value on the stuff that you do every day. So having the skinning beasts. Yeah, can I get its pelt? Yeah, it's a medium sized creature. It's going to take you a half an hour. Do you know how to do it with a successful survival check? Is a basic wolf and has a value of one gold piece. Put it down.
Yep.
And again, any chance to get a character every now all of a sudden, maybe that you incidentally spark your character of, got a character now that is all about killing the white moose. What's the
Yeah.
pelt on that? You know what I mean? Like now, obviously,
Right.
you guys are a group of hunters who, now we're just hunting. Oh, there's your campaign. Let's find bigger, badder monsters
Yep.
to hunt.
So Vigil Watch Collected Volume is available for 5e D&D on Drive-Through RPG through you just have to go into Onyx Path and click on Scarred Lands if you do a search for it. Someone was dying in the other room here. I don't know what was going on. It's $14.99. $14.99 for this PDF. Unfortunately, there isn't a POD format. So if you're somebody like me who loves books, you're not going to get a POD here. Or they may, I shouldn't say that you're not, because it does say in the notes here that this is an advanced PDF. They are collecting errata. They know that there's potential for some mistakes in here, and they genuinely want you to contact them and say, hey, I found a mistake on page 10, and tell them what it is, because they will fix it. They do this all the time. Um, and it does say that this is, like I said, it says it is an advanced PDF. They are collecting errata for the few weeks to prepare for the final PDF and POD options. So it is going to be a POD option eventually, which is great because if you happen to love books, this is an opportunity for you to get that. There's not a whole lot of 5e Scarland books out there. I think we have 3 or 4 at this point. I know there was The Wicked and the Wise, The Scarlands Player's Guide, The Creature Collection, um, the Bloodsea book that I talked about, as well as Yugman's. That might be about it, unless you're collecting the Spiroghost book. So another option for you to add. Um, I'm a big fan of this book. I'm a big fan of the Scarred Lands. It's probably one of my more favorite D&D settings. Say that because I know Ravenloft is around the corner. So I would recommend it. It's $14.99 for the PDF. I don't think you're going to lose any. You're not going to have any regret spending $15 for it. What do you think?
I think you're probably safe with that one there. And then as a player, um, if you don't need that, hopefully you'll still be able to pick up the breakout ones. So if you are playing a redeemed race and want to understand them a little better, you can pick these up where your people come from, what they're believing or what they're trying to do in the new world, their place.
And there is some older Vigil Watch stuff, so keep that in mind. This is like the older Scarred stuff that is available on Drive Through RPG. This has got the I think the history label on them, so just keep that in mind that you're making sure you get the right one. 5e. In fact, I typed in Visual Watch and it brought me the Secrets of the Asathi, which I mean could be great for background information, but keep in mind it's not going to be 5e. So that is our quick down and dirty on Vigil Watch collected volume from Onyx Path for the Scarred Lands. Nolan, is there anything else you want to add about this book?
Oh,
No, me neither. So that is going to be our show for this week, unless you have something else.
I don't. I know we're getting kind of closer to some stuff coming out that we can dive deeper into. We talked a little bit about some stuff coming out, maybe with Diablo 3 and their new patch and the follower edition. Uh, so kind of looking forward to the next couple weeks. Getting some fresh books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like I said, I really want to dive into this Vesson book. I think it looks really fascinating. I just have to find the time to read through everything. I have a lot of So, but it is something I want to look into. There is going to be a link in the show notes for you to grab a copy of Visual Watch. I do remember that those links are our affiliate links. So every time you purchase something through Drive Through RPG, if you do it through our affiliate link, we do get a small kickback, and it does help us fund things like buying new equipment, stuff like that. There are some costs that are associated with this that we are happy to pay because we love doing the show. Um, but that is a way for you to help us. Even if you're not purchasing that book exactly, there are links on our website that for Drive Through RPG that you can just click on, and no matter what you purchase, we will get a small kickback. It's a small kickback, but hey, it's better than nothing. So that is our show for this week. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Yeah, have a good time playing your games, hanging out with friends as we get closer to getting back to the real world um, next week.
You got a vaccine scheduled soon, don't you?
Yeah, Tuesday, round one.
That is awesome. Is it just you, or is it you and your wife and family? What is it?
Just me right now, and then the wife is on.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you move your arm a lot because it's going to hurt and you don't get as sick as Troy did.
I know. Cross my fingers.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.